in the long course of the American commitment to freedom and dignity of the individual, no single deed has done more than Lincoln's signing of the Emancipation Proclamation to redeem the pledge upon which this republic was formed. The pledge that all men are created equal, are endowed equally with unalienable rights, and are entitled equally to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
In regard to the American history of civil rights, it is difficult to think of two more potent symbols of justice than Abraham Lincoln and Robert Kennedy. The Kennedy-Lincoln Emancipation Proclamation links the noblest ideals of the 1860s to those of the 1960s. President John F. Kennedy decided that the most effective way to advance civil rights was to use existing laws. As the Attorney General, Robert F. Kennedy was given the responsibility to enforce these laws, originally made possible by the Emancipation Proclamation. Separated by a century, these two pragmatic, fearless men each had strong beliefs in the equality of all Americans. As Abraham Lincoln wrote in a letter to Mr. Hodges in April 1864, "I am naturally anti-slavery. If slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. I cannot remember when I did so think and feel." In 1962, a journalist asked Robert Kennedy, "What do you see as the biggest problem ahead of you? Is it crime or internal security?" His answer, civil rights. Robert Kennedy began collecting historic documents in the 1950s. He had enormous respect for history, as evidenced in this 1957 clip from the CBS show Person to Person in his interview with Edward R. Murrow.
Still get a little bit, and I also collect things having to do with American history. I have some letters from presidents of the United States. For instance, one from Thomas Jefferson over here, and from George Washington. A letter from George Washington to Governor Clinton of New York. And over here, there is a letter from one of the first briefs that was written by Abraham Lincoln when he was a young lawyer in Illinois around 1835, 1836. And I consider it one of my prized possessions.
As a designated spokesman for civil rights in the administration, Robert Kennedy gave a speech for the centennial of the Emancipation Proclamation on January 4, 1963. The centennial was widely recognized, and its tremendous symbolic value was used to further promote the cause of civil rights. In the draft he reads from, his notes for pauses and last-minute rewrites can clearly be seen. On March 31, 1964, Park Burnett, Sotheby's predecessor in New York, offered a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation for sale. Robert Kennedy bought it for $9,500. The original copy of the Emancipation Proclamation burned in the Chicago fire. However, in 1864, copies were printed to be signed by Abraham Lincoln and sold to benefit the predecessor of the Red Cross. Only 24 other copies of this remarkable document are known, 18 of which are in institutions. None have a provenance as evocative as this copy, which hung in the hallway of the Kennedy home, Hickory Hill, for over 40 years.
What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, and a feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black. And what dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people.